Yeah.
It's 11:02. This is the 21st of October, and this is the Southborough Library Board of Trustees. Okay, take it away, Ryan.
Yeah, so why don't we, if it's okay with you, Marguerite, before
Mhm.
we get to the director's report, I
Yep.
think let me talk about kind of the safe child policy, because that was a
Okay, so I'll
question.
move, I'll
I,
move that agenda item, which is agenda item number not Roman numeral 9, unattended child policy. We'll move it up to discuss it first.
okay, because this is not something that you have to decide right now, is the other thing too. And I'm gonna draft you guys a policy based on some of this for you to review at the next meeting, if that makes sense. And then we're just going to kind of go from there. I think it would also be helpful if we could get Kim potentially to attend the meeting if she's unable to because of story time, because that usually kind of interconnects with our meetings a little bit. I'd like to at least touch base with her after we have a working draft where the trustees have given input so that it makes sense to her too. Because to be honest, Kim is going to be the one dealing with this policy somewhat more than me. But basically, what happened was we had a situation. It was a parent who had two children, and they were attending a parents' night at St. Mark's. The child was at, I guess, St. Mark's, or they were bringing that child to St. Mark's, and there was a younger sibling. They wanted to leave the younger sibling at the library in the evening while they were attending the parents' night. So I can see some head nods no. The staff, it was a part-time staff who was in the children's room. They said no. And then Leah was the supervisor, and they referred to Leah. And again, they said no nicely. They just said, we can't be responsible for your child if you were to leave them here, which is really the cliff notes. We're not responsible for children when parents leave them there, other than, we're trying to maintain the building and make sure that everybody in the building is as safe as possible,
It's
right?
not a
Um,
babysitting service.
so the person, I think, was from Hopkinton and said, I do this all the time at the Hopkinton Library. Um, I don't understand why this is a problem. What's your policy? So that led to having a discussion with more of the staff about the development of a policy, which we learned most of our area neighbors do have this codified in writing. So should we. That's kind of where I'm at with this particular thing. So we need to start developing something so that the staff have tools in order to have language to speak to patrons about this in the future.
Mm.
Westborough's policy also does not have an age limit. The others do. It's under up to 10 years old. So it would be like 0. We say 0, but that's if they're babies, if they're not yet 1 to 9. But Kim and I, again, have kind of discussed the age limit, and that's something we'd like to further engage you guys on once we develop the policies, that we prefer not to have an age range, only because we think that that might hurt us more than help us, if that makes sense. We want the policy to be able to help the library, but also be flexible for patrons coming in at the same time, if that makes sense.
I wonder if it'd
But
be worthwhile to say something to St. Mark's to just make sure they're not suggesting to people that they do this.
I, honestly, Janet, we can kind of. It wasn't St. Mark's, rather. I'm sorry, it was Fay. They were going to Fay, I believe, a parent-teacher night at Fay, because both the children were younger. So I misspoke. I'm sorry. I can reach out to the schools. I do not think that was a suggestion from the school.
No,
I
Janet,
do believe that this was the. Yeah.
Ryan, apropos of that, just finish the policy and then just email it to
Yeah.
each school when it's done. So they
Yeah,
have it.
that's the. And honestly, I think engaging with the public schools would also not be a bad idea, and sending it to the superintendent's office, just so that they're aware of what the library's stance on all that is.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good
But that's
plan.
a
It's
good point
good.
to bring up, Janet, is that we don't want people suggesting that and then
Right.
having us, yeah.
Say no.
But we don't want to
yeah.
accuse them of, we don't want to accuse the schools of suggesting it if they aren't either.
Right.
That's, anyway. Okay, so that sounds like a good plan. Do we have any more comments on that?
I just have a quick clarification comment. So when Ryan mentioned that Mariana's been doing a great job courting those middle schoolers to come over, I just want to make sure whatever language is used, I think this is obvious and goes without saying, is still conducive to kids coming after school, doing homework, things like that. So we don't, yeah, just, I know you were going to do that anyway. Just wanted to
Good reminder.
Yeah, that was part of the reason we were a little resistant to the age ranges, only because we don't know where the middle schoolers will fall, or if it's a younger middle schooler who's coming in. And then also just, it's something we can share with the parents of any child who is unattended. We do have like a regular young lady who's coming in, and we do kind of check in on her, who's from Trottier and who's very independent. So we don't, it's fine. And Kim and I are in communication with her mom, just if anything comes up, but we don't really need to be every day, if that makes sense.
I wonder if Westboro's legal counsel has vetted this. Am I muted? No. Okay.
No,
I'm wondering
we
if
can,
Westboro's legal counsel has vetted this and whether the Southborough's town council should look at it too.
we can say, I think as a standard practice, Marguerite, we can run every policy by legal counsel just to see if it's in
Right.
conflict with any mass general law. But my understanding is that there's a pretty fair amount of latitude we have in deciding
Okay.
how, I'm saying how you decide you would like to handle this particular issue. I think that that's the thing, is like, I can't stop a parent from just dropping a child off. The other thing is we want to be clear that in a programming environment, because that happens on a regular basis, especially for the older craft programs, where like if it's an hour or an hour and a half block, the children are dropped off for the program and then picked up. It's very similar now that book clubs have started, youth book clubs. So, and with teen programming, like the Dungeons and Dragons is coming up, that may also occur because that's a longer span of time. So the policy will address programming times as well, because I think that's kind of important. So there's a lot of moving parts in this. I don't think you're going to get a draft next meeting and then be like ready to approve this. I think there'll be feedback that you have. And I think that's fair. This is a bigger policy than sort of a boilerplate. I think there's things that you might want to discuss and come back to Kim and I with, and that makes sense.
And I'll just add one more thing, if that's okay. Just, I think what you're going to be, the path that you're carefully walking down is the library is such a safe and welcoming space for children, for sort of an age appropriate child to come in and have their like first independent foray. They're coming in from after school, or they're going to meet up with a friend and they're going to go to the book catalog together. So I know it's important to everyone to maintain that sense of like community safety while also making sure that the parents are running roughshod on everything.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can. I think what David said right up front is I think we should use the Westboro policy that you've shown us as a template, and of course what Mary's been saying is important, but we need this as a backup of if things go awry. And of course we want to be welcoming and encouraged walking over and doing homework, all those things you said, but I think it's important for us to have that. And like Marguerite said, circulated to all the schools, and we have to have it overseen by the select board, or who did you say, the town council?
Just have them look at it. Yeah.
The other thing,
So be it, but I think it's important to have it because all this stuff you're saying is completely normal, but could get dicey. Those
The
are
other thing I want to note is it hasn't really happened in the post-COVID environment, but there were several times in previous summers when the library would close on Friday and less frequently on Mondays, but we're open late at night and some kids would be dropped off to study during the day over the summer. And then the parents would get stuck in traffic, because traffic can be worse in the summer, and then or they just assumed the library was open later than 5. I think that's what happened in many cases. And then the child would have been, we would close the building and then the child would have to leave the building. So Kim and I and Leah has done it several times, and I believe Carol and Mariana have as well, but we've waited with the child before they get picked up. And then there was only once I've ever had to do this, but there was a repeat issue with a repeat parent. And I did have to say, you have to be here. You have to be here at 5, because it was getting to be a behavior, if that made sense. So having this policy would have been helpful during that period. So this isn't based on one isolated incident. I kind of brought this up to Kim a while ago, and by that point, the issue with that individual had resolved itself. So there wasn't as much of a need. But what that tells me is this is only going to keep coming up.
Yep.
So I think we need to address it
Yeah.
policy-wise.
Yep.
I think
I
so
also
too.
just want to add that to protect you also, Ryan, I've been in the children's department. I know the policy is also going to list sort of like what adult behavior is appropriate in the children's department. And I've been in the children's department where adults have been conducting their own sort of phone calls and meetings during the working day because they've been kicked out of other areas of the library. So this is, again, something you can point to just, I'm all in favor of this for giving the staff all of the talking points and policies and things to point to they need for backup for appropriate behavior in the library.
I think it's a
Yeah,
go.
so
Good job. Yeah.
Probably overdue.
Yeah.
That's incredible, Mary. Really?
I know we're turning into workspace, right?
Jesus. What? How arrogant.
I know. At
Right.
least do it in your car. God.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody-
I will
outside.
say, after we complete this one that's more specifically on the children, we do need to look, and this will probably be an even longer process, but we need to start probably drafting a patron behavior policy or a code of conduct for the library as well, because increasingly we've had incidents where people have been incendiary or insulting to some of the staff, and we need to kind of I want to have a baseline of what behavior is expected from people and when things need to escalate beyond the staff. Because again, I don't know if it's the political environment. I think that's a factor right now. So we're hoping maybe it's just for the next month or two, but it seems to be coming up more and more. And it is just, we're a library that serves our local area. Increasingly, it has been with Marlborough patrons specifically, but it's not isolated. I'm not just blaming people who live in Marlborough. I think that it seems like tensions are high. It seems like the library staff sometimes are the direct line of sight. And that's another tool I think we need to give them, is like, when is what somebody says to them not okay? And what do they do as a result of that? So that is going to be a much longer process, but let's stick to the kids right now, because I think that is the most important, and then we can move on.
Well, remember, the townhouse has gone through this with people coming in and being way out of line. So I'm sure,
yeah, you got the First Amendment ACLU thing in there to think about too.
yeah, but I'm sure we could just use pretty much whatever they've come up with because that's been vetted every which way.
Hmm.
I don't know
Okay.
that they have a formal policy, Janet. I think they look at things on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Well, it is a situation, and we need to protect our staff. I mean,
I mean, people have been forbidden to use the townhouse, things like that, so I would
Yeah,
have
and
thought.
they-
Yeah, so I think, Marguerite, to your point about engaging with town council, if we end up looking at, do we want to do no trespass because that might be a factor in a potential patron behavior policy, is that definitely needs to be vetted by council. So that'll be a longer process. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I just wanted to start with this Westboro one as a template. I promise you this, in reviewing like 10 of these, this was my favorite. I thought you guys would like it. That's why I put it together in a document and made it available to you.
It seems
So-
very well done.
I think. it's
Yeah,
good.
I agree, David. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Okay, so if we have no more comments on that, and thank you, Ryan, for getting started on that. It sounds like a good policy to have.
Sign of the times, huh?
Yeah, really. Should we do the minutes or director's report? Where are we up for? Want to do the minutes and get it
Do
out of the
the
way?
minutes. If you
All right.
guys don't mind, we, just for the purposes of the motions,
Mhm.
when we make the motions for the minutes, if we could state the date of the meeting where the minutes are being approved. We didn't do that again in the last meeting, and we just want to make sure that everything is like official, if that makes sense. So.
Okay, and can I, as a person who has caught flack on this previously, the state and Jim Haggerty are now requiring down at the bottom of the minutes before they're posted in their final form, there has to be, in addition to just, signed off on the date of the meeting and who did the minutes, the approved on a little line, and then the date that we approved the minutes has to go on there, which I think people sort of forget. I know I did, and was reminded that that legally has to be there. So today is the 21st of October, and the first minutes we'll look at are, I have the 16th. Do we have any corrections on the minutes for the 16th?
I had none.
Okay, I had one on the paragraph that says director contract. Where the second sentence where it says Ryan also found out he will not be able to be the SAP representative on the town's insurance advisory committee or for the sick bank. Okay, I think it's Ryan learned if he is working with if he is under a contract, he will not be able to be on the SAP representative.
Right.
So it makes it sound here like you just can't as of now, but you can't if you are under contract.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just put that in? All right, so do I have,
Yeah.
if there's no other edits, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the 16th?
So move.
September,
and-
September.
sorry, September 16th, 2024. I know.
Thank you, okay.
Okay.
For the minutes for, that was my bad then. September 16th, 2024, do I have a motion to approve as amended?
So move.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Ekberg, aye.
Tinty, I.
Davis, I.
Maybe I.
Okay, so that passes. And then the second set of minutes we're looking at is, I have the 30th of September 2024. Do I have any emendations or corrections? Okay, so do
I'm
I have a
sorry
motion?
those went out. I do apologize that they went out only yesterday, but as you can see, the minutes are very brief because there's only two motions that you guys made, and it was a 5-minute meeting, literally.
I knew that was something of a record. Okay, no emendations. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the September 30th, 2024 trustees meeting?
I motion.
Okay, do I have a
Amy.
second?
I'll second.
All right, Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Ekberg, aye.
Davis, I.
I wasn't there, so
Okay, you
Absent.
can't
Tinty,
be
aye.
wrong. Okay, all righty. Okay, so those minutes are approved as written. All right, thanks. How about the
So-
director's report, Ryan?
So for the purposes of the minutes, Janet, we'll put that you abstained from the vote.
yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I just want to make sure because Mariana has to write it up. So,
Thank you.
All right. I've got this cold that I could barely hear. It's like I couldn't,
Oh,
my
no.
word retrieval's off too.
Anyway, all right. So director's report.
Right word.
okay, I got that up. Almost had it up. So I'm looking at the wrong director's report. Okay, here we
October
go.
21.
I'm in the right one now. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at one for June. Give me a minute.
No problem.
Okay. Here we go. I warned you guys I was not doing so hot this morning, so I'm just proving it now. Okay. No, I'm still in September's, so bear with me for a moment. Were there any, to get started, were there any questions on the director's report? Let's start there while I'm pulling it up.
I've got two quickies.
Yeah.
The 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth bullet point down from the beginning. The second one under facilities, I think in the second line, it should be helping Libby and me. That's a pedantic comment.
Where are we?
On the
Where are-
budget,
Oh, the
right?
No, we're on the director's
The
report.
director's report.
What's the
Oh.
heading of the section? David?
Facilities, the second section,
Yeah.
and the second bullet point under that, and the second line,
Oh, Libby and me. Yep.
Libby and me.
Yep.
And then I had actually a more substantial question. I'm happy to see that we're contacting the DPW superintendent on the service we're getting from J&J. Have you gotten any feedback from them from the DPW on that, Ron?
I have feedback. They did what they said they were gonna do. I think someone was at our meeting and said, and put a bug in William Cundiff's ear, and yes, within the next, before October 1st, everything was cleaned, everything that we asked for. Am I interrupting, Ryan? You look
No.
upset. No.
No.
I'm sorry you can't see me. I had shoulder replacement surgery last Wednesday and I don't look so great. So that's why you can't see me. No one wants to see me. It's been rough. But before that, yes, the earth mover was brought in. They dug up the stumps, they filled in the holes, they cleaned up all the debris that had been left. They did everything that we had asked for back in June. And it looks really good. I told him how good it looked, and his comment was, Ryan, you saw this. I'm sure everyone will notice how good it looks. I'm not sure about this guy. Don't write that down, Mariana. But they did follow through thanks to some help from our friends on the select board. So it's all beautiful. I think it looks good. And
It looks
it's
great. Did J&J blow more leaves back on it?
well, yes. And today I got an email from the head of Michelle Landis from the Garden Club, who is going to contact Bill Cundiff and ask if they could get the leaves out from along the wall, because one last thing that the gardeners need to do this fall, well, two, is to plant some bulbs along that stone wall along the cemetery, to, the wall between the library gardens and the cemetery. And so hopefully he will ask them to do that, and they will do it. And the other thing is I was in touch with an arborist who will be coming on the property to trim the 2 trees in the library garden and the big branch that's coming over from, I forget what kind, maybe it's a maple, in the cemetery, which is actually on top of those 2 trees. It's been approved by the gardeners. I've told Ryan and I've told William Cundiff, and I will let you know when he's coming. It'll take a day. It'll be big machines, but it won't take more than a day, I promise.
Oh, that's wonderful, Jane. That's it's really good. The question that I had is the broken branch on the maple, is that within the old burial ground?
The tree is, but the branch is way over on top of our property, your
Okay.
property on the library grounds. If you
'Cause
go and
yeah.
look, someone chopped it off and now there's rot on that. It's a big branch
Yep.
on that branch, but it belongs to the tree that's actually in the cemetery. He said he would
Okay,
take
so
care
there's
of it.
another maple in the cemetery that's dropped a branch on top of the headstones, which I took
Yeah.
a picture of yesterday shamelessly and emailed it to the DPW. They are gonna sew be
They're
friends
gonna
with
love
us,
us.
right?
Yeah, yeah, they already don't like me, but that's fine.
Oh, no one doesn't like you, Jane. This is not true.
I'm
Everyone
tough, come
likes
on.
you. I know, you
You
get
know
it
me.
done. There you go.
You loaded up with double-legged.
Jane, Jane, I'm sorry, I was holding my nose only because I'm having nose problems, so I
Oh,
didn't mean
okay.
to look upset. It's just it's very painful right now. So I also, having just had the sinus surgery, I'm feeling your pain a little bit, and I always want to see you. I just want to
No,
throw
no,
that
you
out there.
don't.
Me
You
too.
really don't.
We so during Heritage Day, the landscapers were on site when we first got
Oh
there
my
to set
gosh.
up for the book
Yeah, of
sale.
course.
Yes, how
No,
Yeah.
don't. Jane is
incredibly-
recuperating. She needs to be calm, right?
So
that
then,
was
so they were blowing leaves. Leaves were blown both in the new area that the gardeners created, as well as in the areas that J&J blew leaves in the area that they just cleared and
mhm.
collected them there.
Yeah, I know.
So I did engage with Bill, because David did come on the property because he saw the landscapers there and then kind of followed up. He took a walk through, saw that all the leaves had basically just been pushed against the cemetery wall, and that
Yeah.
it had affected the new gardeners area and had affected the new area as well. So I don't know if you want to circle back with Michelle, Jane. She's welcome to independently get in touch with DPW as well. But I did give feedback to Bill and got a response that he's already going to notify J&J. And I just asked them, do they remove the leaves or do they just kind of push them all in an area? In which case, I think we have feedback about where the leaves would go, like
Yeah.
maybe not on the library grounds.
Yeah, this is
if
the cycle
possible.
we have been experiencing, and
Yeah.
they don't remove them. They should remove them. They have capacity to take them away. They have a truck and a shred, chipper and you name it. But that's why they're still there. We don't want to start that debris pile that they created over.
Yeah. They've been dumping leaves there for years and years, so.
Yeah, well, we're on the warpath now. We don't want them there anymore.
No, and it's a
I think we're in a
tricentennial
very,
coming. We have to be pretty.
I think it's a very polite warpath. That's what I'll say, right? Too like
I've
we're
been
not
polite
being.
so far.
Yeah.
Am I-
Um,
I have
David
a good
also
memory.
noted.
We had a punch
Yeah.
list, right? Bullets.
Yep.
You said you'd do this now.
I mean, that whole thing
David
was
also-
that whole thing was a fiasco. I mean,
Yeah.
coming on a holiday with a whole bunch of us volunteers out there working, this guy rocketing around the yard at 140 decibels and smushing all of the leaves up against the wall. It was just.
Did anybody say anything to him? Like, don't do
I
it?
I don't know
engaged
that
with
anybody did.
J&J's
I think
slightly.
they,
You know,
Only
their big truck in the
That's just them
parking lot
setting up
clogging
the
things
book.
up, it just a poor choice to do it on a holiday with a lot of things going on to start with.
Well, I didn't know to engage with DPW to ask them not to be the morning of Heritage Day because I wasn't aware they were coming. Also, I do not believe it was the regular landscaping crew,
Yeah,
if such a thing
wasn't.
exists. I
Yeah.
didn't recognize any of the people from being here previous, so not that I engage with them on a regular basis anyway, but we did give that feedback. If it wasn't raining, to be honest, and it wasn't bad weather and we hadn't moved some of the book sale inside for that day, I probably would have asked the landscapers to leave, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it was disruptive. And to David's point, he was there setting up for the sale, as were some of you there as well, either for Heritage Day or to help us set up. And it was disruptive. I would say it was
Well,
hard
it's
for us to talk
Probably a
outside. We couldn't hear each other.
miscommunication on the part
Yeah.
of J&J. It was probably some person who hadn't done it before and thought he was being very helpful to get the leaves off the lawn. So I think it's a J&J communication issue, and be
I
good
think
if
it's a
Jane, you
DPW
talked to them.
communication issue. Come on now. He
Well,
should,
I mean, he didn't. I saw him. He was just being very peppy, and I don't think he'd done it before there. So he was just.
you don't think what?
I
He's
don't
not,
think that particular worker was familiar, had done it there before. I think he was just like sailing along, doing what
well, I don't
somebody
mean
probably
him.
told him.
I mean, the DPW person should be aware that it is a big deal that there's the whole festival that day and including on the library property.
Mm,
Anyway,
Well,
I'm
the
wasting
company's
my
based out
time.
of Marlboro, so they wouldn't necessarily have known.
yeah,
But who manages them?
Right,
The head
exactly.
of- Who's managing them?
I
DPW.
think your person who you call is the best way to do it.
I
That
will make them
J&J.
aware of it in future Heritage Days, so to hopefully minimize this issue in the future.
Well,
I
they just
just
shouldn't be
didn't.
blowing they should be removing the leaves from the grounds, that's all.
Yeah,
Just-
and then so there's the leaf removal. The other thing I just want to point out, sorry to make this another library grounds meeting, but David did point out in the area that was cleared, some of like the stalks in sort of, I think it was smaller trees that were removed are still kind of jutting out from the ground. And I think this was the real reason David stopped by, is because he was just concerned that it was more of a safety issue. And in reviewing it with him, I don't disagree. I don't think it's an area typically where children are, but because of the park area being there, I'm more concerned about it now, I guess, than I would have been in the past. So that was another thing that we just circled back with J&J's on, is to make them aware of it and then to see what could be done. So we've notified DPW has notified J&J's. We'll see how things go next month. And then it'll be winter soon. So hopefully we won't have to worry about any of this until the spring after that. So. Okay, now there's a line. David, were you all set with director's report? Did you
Yes,
have
thank
anything
you.
else?
Yes.
Okay, so I saw your hand, Mary. I was gonna go to Janet, if that's okay, because Janet's hand was up, and then go to you. And then Amy and Janet can't see your hands, but if you got stuff too, but Janet,
Go
fire
to
away.
Mary, because my question was on the budget.
Okay,
My question was quickly about the website. Just looking for a little clarity, and also maybe wanting to express some sympathy, because I know you just went through a website overhaul, and will the search for a new vendor require you to have to do new things to your website?
require, I don't know. I can tell you, this kind of goes, I guess, into maybe some of Janet's questions, but the new website is going to cost more, is what I can tell you.
So you have to do
there's-
another new website through the new vendor.
Yes, but we don't have to do a new website until next year, is the good
Okay.
news. But we're gonna have to migrate all of our existing content over to a new vendor. And then there's a lot of these, what I'm learning is a lot of these have like setup costs, like one-time setup costs, because they have to commit staff and resources into a migration, and then they basically make everything ready to go for you, right? So that's a little bit of what you're paying for versus you trying to figure out a new platform and set it all up yourself.
Well,
It's also
Piper
not
is-
like they're giving you that
I
option.
think first to say
So-
Piper is going out of business, so we don't really have any choice. They're closing their doors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, understood. And so that obviously could not have been predicted back, but this, I guess I'm remembering from the Friends meetings briefly, there also used to be a connection between our website and the town's website. So I'm curious, our website is independent from town website infrastructure as well, right? So anything.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And so the vendor is no longer going to be in business. We need to find a new vendor.
Correct. And our existing vendor has already sent us multiple suggestions on companies that we could move to. And then we've already been reached out to by at least one of the sales reps for one of the new companies too. So there's kind of really what he's doing is, because our vendor is very aware, because he primarily serves public libraries, he's aware that it's budget season for all of us. He's also aware that people need notice in order to start planning these changes. So the other thing there's a couple options we can do. We could immediately open a new website for July of next year and be ready to go at the beginning of the fiscal year, which is kind of where I'm leaning, to be honest. or we could maintain having the Piper Webb's website through October of next year, because that's when he's going to shut stuff down. So we literally have a year to figure this out. But I have been talking a lot with the staff about this. I haven't told you all about it, and there's going to be financial implications. So that's what I have to tell you. The good news is that the vendor that I like the best is not significantly more expensive year to year. There will be a setup cost. So we're going to have to figure that out, but it's not going to, we could integrate this into next year's budget potentially. That's in my opinion. So.
And then my follow-up question to this was related to the switch that you're going to do about the subscription with Plymouth Rocket. So that's am I understanding correctly that's the subscription that allows the library a very clean interface for all of the museum related ticketing and things like that? Yeah. So are these
Yes.
happening in tandem, or are they two different conversations?
Yes.
Okay.
So because sorry, there's a lot of technology changing vendors taking place. The Museum Pass system, which is called TixKeeper, which is through a company called Plymouth Rocket, went down the day I had my surgery. As of today, it has not fully been back up. We are able to reserve passes for patrons. My understanding is that patrons might be able to reserve it for themselves, but we learned there's like little idiosyncratic problems. Like for instance, our Children's Museum Pass was an online pass where people would get a PDF that they could show on a phone. That part of the system has not been fixed. We now had to convert the pass as a pickup pass. So patrons don't have to return the coupon, but we have to pre-print the Children's Museum passes. So this is for the Boston Children's Museum, and patrons now have to come pick it up and get it physically. So, to be honest, a lot of library directors throughout Massachusetts, and I think that beyond, because I know I used this in New Hampshire when I worked in Nashua, Plymouth Rocket has been around for at least 30 years. It looks the same as when I worked at my public library in high school. It's the same interface. So they were moving servers. So they were doing a server migration, and they didn't anticipate a disruption, but everything broke. And then they were not able to restore everything. So that's kind of the shorthand of what happened. It's obviously there's more complicated parts in that. There wasn't a lot of communication from Plymouth Rocket when all of this was happening, because they were hoping it was going to be a short-term problem, which is not what has materialized. So now I think a lot of people are shopping for new vendors all at once. And we were already, to be honest, I was already kind of looking at Assabet when I worked part-time at Belmont, a couple of years ago. That was the system they used there. It's a lot more intuitive. So it's called Assabet Interactive, just to make it clear that it's not the high school, right? Because we have an Assabet high school. So Assabet Interactive is another platform. It's further complicated too, because Plymouth Rocket also manages EventKeeper, which is how we have all of our events listed on the website. What Plymouth Rocket notified us last week is that they are no longer going to maintain support as of October 30th. I think October 30th is last day. So November 1st, they're going to discontinue our ability to add new events to EventKeeper. So that's a big problem for us. So to your question, Mary, I took a long road around to answer this. We need to get a new event manager now, because they told us we have like 3 weeks, like less than that when we got notified. So we have it bundled with Plymouth Rocket. We do museum passes and our event calendar. So with Assabet Interactive, they also can bundle multiple platforms at once. So they're going to be doing events and a museum pass.
Thank you for explaining that. That time lane makes total sense and is also a bummer because I don't know a lot about this, but I wondered if in a perfect world, whatever new website vendor you had might have their own integrated program for this that would be desirable for you. But it seems like that's a non-starter anyway, if it even exists, because you need to fix the ticket problem now.
Yeah, we are making sure that the new website vendor we go to can integrate into any new website that we eventually go into. But in a perfect world, Mary, I agree. It would be great if we could pay one vendor for all of this stuff so that it was a lot easier. But they are kind of sort of technology wise, very separate uses, I guess, of because you can get a new website and have your website do basic web functions. The museum pass system needs to specifically be able to talk to our ILS, our integrated library system, where we check things in and out. So the good news is Assabet Interactive is based in Concord, Massachusetts. So they're a Massachusetts-based company. So I kind of like that part of it. And then if you guys are curious and you go to either Marlborough or Hopkinton, their websites use Assabet Interactive now. So you could see how their museum passes are integrated. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's visually very appealing. I think it's very intuitive to users. And I believe Hopkinton is on their event system as well. But I'm learning more about, you know, how all of this is going to work. We did, unfortunately, I thought we didn't pay our annual renewal for Plymouth Rocket, but I already did. So I'm exploring with Plymouth Rocket getting a refund. And then the startup costs for, in addition to our annual subscription for Assabet Interactive, is something that we're able to integrate into the budget. Like the website, year to year, this is going to be more expensive for us, but not by a significant degree, I can tell you. And Janet, if you want me to talk specific numbers, I can do that, but this might not even be a budget question. That might not even be your budget question, but I can tell you how much all of this stuff costs if you guys have that question.
No, I mean, this is one of those things where I think you pick the best system, even if it costs more, because taking a lot of your time fussing with things, it just
No.
isn't, it doesn't make sense.
Yep, agreed.
Go for
When
the
I spoke to our sales rep, just to let you know, it ended up being his last day with the company. And then to be candid, he doesn't know that Plymouth Rocket will be able to maintain itself as a result of this debacle. So the other thing is, it does seem like I'm jumping ship right away, but I don't want to be on the sinking ship, if that makes sense. I think
It's
that's
also, I'm
what's
sure service is going to go downhill between now and when they eventually close doors anyway. So
Right.
yeah, I think jumping ship's a good idea.
No, it was good that they let you know. So, and it sounds like you're on the case. And it sounds like Assabet Interactive is an attractive option. And what are we talking for amounts of money here? A couple $1,000s a year?
so our annual subscription for the Tixkeeper and Event Keeper platforms was $1,075. This year for Assabet, we're going to have to pay $2,000, and that includes a startup fee. After this year, the renewal cost will be $1,450. So that's the price difference.
I
So it's a
think it
couple
sounds
hundred
good to
more.
me. Right. I think
Get a
it
lot
sounds
out
good.
of it. Get a lot for your money for that amount, I think.
Also, we were explaining to patrons all the time how to reserve passes. Like we had to do demos with people at the desk.
Yeah.
I think that workflow is going to decrease as a result. And also, Kim, this is really where we should talk about Kim Ivers for 2 minutes. Kim is the one who has to go to friends meetings to try to advocate for renewal of the passes, but then she works with Freya Bradford from Plymouth Rocket on doing all of the back end and like adding the passes and updating the dates and auto blocking them. It is And for anybody who doesn't think Kim is tech savvy, watch her do a museum pass. She is, I can tell you. And to be honest, Kim's knowledge on this is beyond what I can do. Which I know you guys all think I'm like a techie genius, not when it comes to the pass system. Kim really has become our expert. And I just want to say that if this could make Kim's life easier, I think it's worth the price increase.
Amen.
I'd argue.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on to Janet's budget question?
It's,
Yeah.
this is fairly simple. I was wondering why the salaries are down or under by 10% already so far this year.
So we haven't integrated the longevity amounts, Janet, so that does factor into the overall percentage because that's a little chunk of money. We
Doesn't that
are,
automatically happen?
it's not, so it's like when people's anniversary comes, they get paid a longevity amount. So mine is in there, but it doesn't get paid out till May, but that's like a percent. So the rest of it does have to do a little bit with we have one library page currently, and I think we're budgeted for 4, and then we are down a couple technicians and I think an associate as well. So we have increased
That is a lot.
hours for staff members who are interested, but you do notice, this is good to note. Actually, I love it when people ask budget questions and I can explain this. So
I know you work hard on the budget.
yeah, you do notice that there ends up being more of a surplus during a time where we're hiring. And to be honest, if we're hiring a full-time person, sometimes that gap is even wider because we're not paying people the amount of money that they make when they're not in that role, and we need actively to fill shifts. So the good news is that I'll be able to offer additional hours to some of the new people coming in, which I think is, it's also one of the reasons, Janet, I'm suggesting we hire 2 library technicians as opposed to 1.
Okay.
So this is a good segue into the hiring in a little bit. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
but did that answer your question? If that's okay?
It's just
Yeah.
10% at this point of the year. It's actually a little further in the year than I think. Seemed like a lot.
It's also because when I'm reporting on a month, the final payroll of that month is not integrated yet. So that also closes the gap on the percentage a lot. And depending on where our meeting falls in the month, we may have 3 payrolls in a particular month, depending on where the weeks fall. So it can be a pretty wide deficit. So I'm saying like it probably in order, it's that I just said, the fact that we're not looking at a month end, it's the fact that we have part-time staff who are not working at the budgeted capacity. And then it's also because longevity amounts aren't applied. It's all 3 of those factors, but primarily the first. I think when you look at an October year end, after we've completed the last payroll, you probably would feel better about where the salaries are.
So if you think of that as 1/4 of the year, it looked like by the end of the year, you'd be down 40%, which would be, yeah. So the fact that it's only 2 of the months makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving right along to my favorite item for this meeting, MPLCP update. Ryan, where are we?
I just wanted to make sure that we close the gap on the director's report, if that's
Oh,
okay.
alright.
And there's a
Okay.
couple quick things I have
Okay,
to
go
bring
for
up, if that's okay, Marguerite.
Yep.
I just wanted to update everybody. We went to Hotel Stay America exactly one time. We have not, because the kids are in school, which we noted in the last meeting, the schedule radically changed for them. And it hasn't lined up that we could go back, which I will say is unfortunate because there were some requests from some of the kids and Mariana actively tried to get items for them. So we're also seeing if it makes sense for us to partner with Westboro so that we could at least get 1 or 2 more visits with the kids in. And at the very least, if Mariana could go and give there was a specific request for like Hot Wheels for like cars, and she was able to get a donation of those. So we're going to try to see if we can figure that out. But I know this was something that the board was excited about, and I was getting excited about, and I went there, and Marianne and I had a really good time interacting with the kids. And it's unfortunate that it's not a regular thing, but I think it's also very positive that the kids are in school. So I just wanted to note that. We are going to start doing our, Carol and I are going to start trying to do the senior outreach at Colonial Gardens. So I can update you guys in November on how the first visit went.
Are Saturdays
Um,
out for Westboro, for hotel stay in Westboro? Saturdays are
I
out?
don't know. We're going to explore that option as well. And I don't know what the Westboro Library is still doing, how much their schedule was affected, but they were going there more than we were. So I'm hoping that maybe they're still doing some form of outreach. At the very least, we could just drop off the donation to the child who is interested. If they're still there, because we don't know that either. The only other thing I wanted to just bring up was the Red Cross bin. There was a lot of back and forth about that at the last meeting. I did follow up with Joan Osborne, and I did get her phone number because I know Marguerite, you had expressed an interest in speaking with her. I don't know if you just want me to email her after this meeting asking for the bin to be removed. That was kind of what was decided in the last meeting. So I just wanted feedback from all of you
Yeah,
on how to proceed.
where are we on the bin?
Last meeting, the trustees decided to have the bin removed.
I
Yeah.
still think we should.
Yeah.
I still think we should, and I think a comment I recall from that meeting is where they put the bin next is not our issue. It's
Right.
totally not. We would like it removed, end of story.
right.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're still
Why
on,
don't-
I called Joan Osborne.
Yeah, why don't I do that, Marguerite? Why don't I contact her today?
All right,
And I'll CC you, if that's okay? Just so that you're in the
that's
loop?
good. That's
Okay.
good, because I don't have any experience with her at all. So you do. So I think that would fit. But I guess
The
trustees
bin
have
did get
the
another
veto.
month because of this too. And then again, I don't know what the time frame is for removal. So it might be there for a while longer. I can just let her know that at this point, the library would like the bin removed. And we can go from there.
All right, okay, that sounds like a plan. All right, other items in the director's report.
No, we can move on. I'm sorry, those were the things I
No, the
needed
bin
to.
is important. The bin is important. Okay, so MPLCP update.
Yes, so I know I've talked with many of you one-on-one, but because of what went on with the MBTA Communities Act, I will say there's 2 libraries in Western Mass that have populations of under 2,500 who did get approved for construction grants. So congratulations to both of those communities. We are what's considered a mid-size library. Mid and large size libraries that applied are not going to get decided until a January MBLC meeting. So this has been, I know I keep telling you guys, we'll hear eventually. So again, I have to say, we will hear eventually, because now we're in October, and October was supposed to be when we get a decision, but now we won't get a decision until January. So I will keep you all posted. When I get the note, you all are going to get the note either way. It's going to be if we get it or if we don't, because I don't want to make you guys wait until a meeting to hear what the decision was. And
Get one too.
I'll go. Mary was first and then Janet.
I just have, oh yeah, sorry.
If at present, if communities, there are 9 total that are in the grant round, us included. If any of those communities don't adopt MBTA communities, they will effectively be disqualified from being able to receive grant funds. So the fact that our community accepted it means that we are still in the running. I have communicated that to our representatives, so they are aware of the vote and are aware that Southborough, that the community passed that at the special town meeting. Mary?
You already kind of answered it. I just wondered if you had any sort of back of house intel about the other communities that had applied that who might not be in compliance with the grant and might be, as a result, taking themselves out of the running. I just wondered, it's a numbers game, and I wondered if you had any ratios you could share, but
Yeah,
the
as far
9
as I
might be
know,
all
there's
you can
about,
share.
yeah, so if you reach out to MBLC, they may provide you a list. I have
Hmm.
not done that, because to be honest, I don't, knowing
No,
the
I don't
list, I
wanna-
don't think,
Make yourself
yeah,
crazy over this stuff too.
yeah,
No,
because that was
no.
something I was asked by the chair of the advisory committee, is like, what communities are in it? Other than Clinton and Hudson, I don't know, because those are like the closest ones to us. And I'm aware from the meetings that they were applying and that they did apply. There are 20, I think, 20-ish. I think it's like 20 that are mid and large. So our chances at this point are maybe a little less than 50%, but it's like it might be higher depending on the MBTA communities thing. They think that there's going to be at least a couple communities that get disqualified at
Yeah.
present. So
Okay.
that could change. And then we also don't know what the state of the legislation is going to be moving
Right.
forward in the next couple months. So that's, maybe this won't matter, I can
Right.
say, but at present it does, and we're in compliance. So
Yeah.
we have done what I can tell you, and I don't know if this makes you feel good, it should, I hope, is that we have literally done everything we can do in order to stay in the running. We have been very communicative. I would just say, if you see anything from Andrea or Heather Bachman on the construction listserv, because I think some of you get those emails on trainings or anything, feel free to attend those so that they see Southborough, like a Southborough name. I don't know that they're doing a whole lot in the next couple months, but just, definitely read their emails and try to attend any trainings if they come up. But I don't think there's anything else we can do other than just wait until January and see what the decision is. So
Ryan, just a point of information, is state aid considered a grant that would be vulnerable?
it is money we receive from the MBLC. So I don't know the exact makeup of state aid. I do know that we would not be eligible for LSTA funding, which is the Library Services and Technology Act. That's federal money that gets distributed through MBLC. I think state aid is a combination to a lesser extent of some federal funds and mostly state funds. So I do know it was like state funding
Yeah.
that they wanted to tie to Communities Act. So I don't know. I don't know that libraries that aren't complying with this, because it's not really the
Lose their
library,
state aid too.
it's the town or the city or the community that they live in, which would reject it. So then effectively that means that the library doesn't get state aid. And some libraries, I can tell you, also from meetings I've attended, are reliant on that funding. So if they don't get that, some of them means it affects salaries, books. There's a variety of different factors that go into that. So, and larger libraries get a lot more money, like Worcester. So I can't answer
I
that
was
for
just
sure.
curious. I was
But I
curious.
do,
Yeah.
I think state aid was part of the discussions internally for the legislature. I think all state funding was, so.
Anyway, we live in interesting times. Okay. Shall we move on to the volunteer
I
policy?
think Janet had a question,
Oh,
Marguerite.
Janet, sorry.
So has word about the delay and, that we thought we'd hear in October, has word been formally sent out to boards and things? Like I talked to Andrew Paff on a new advisory new. I talked to him on Heritage Day. I just, lots of people have asked me through the months and I've told them, and I don't now remember who asked me.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
did
it
reach
affects
out.
boards that we don't think of at the top of our heads.
Yeah, I did reach out to Kathy, Andrew, and Jason, because they're chairs of the
Those are
respective
big
boards.
Yeah.
Select Board, Advisory, and Capital Planning and Improvement. I also did let John Parent know, just that it was delayed as well, because I've he attended the meeting where we had the state consultant come and do the site visit. It doesn't really affect John. And then I know Kathy was Andrew comes into the library every so often, so I did
Yeah. Well, he
have
was
an
in the
in-person talk
children's
with
room
him.
when I was supervising
Yeah.
on Monday.
Yeah. And
Well, I guess
then
to Janet's-
Kathy, I know responded.
I
So
guess to Janet's question, is it worth putting out something town-wide to let everybody in town know? Rather than
I'm
waiting
gonna
to
be
see-
updating, I'm very deficient in updating the building portion of the library's website, so I was going to put an update there. And then I can point people to that. I can send out a more formal notice, Janet. I mean, I feel, I do think we've informed people so that they're aware it's not happening until January. The number one question I have received, I can tell you sort of in an official context, is that many people, I guess, assumed we were going to be going with an ask in 2025. And
Yeah.
what I've told them is we don't go, we get the decision early next year, and then we don't go until 2026. And what I see is people like physically relax when I tell them this. Like their shoulders kind of drop and they kind of like take a breath. So I think
We
what
have to go for
everybody has been
planning
focused.
money. So
Well,
this spring, we wouldn't go for planning money or anything for it? Doesn't show up on the budget.
No, our town, because
That'd be-
we've already approved that money was already approved at the prior annual town meeting. Do you remember when Jane, David and I were up at you might not have been at that one.
Yeah.
There was an article and that money was already approved.
So there's no other step in between the big step.
Yeah. We
Okay.
got the money awarded. If we don't get into the grant round, the money has to be turned back. That's what happens as a result of that.
Right, and it just sits there in a pile. So my question is, fellow library trustees, is this a piece of information that would be, the fact that we are waiting until the first of the year to hear is something that should be known? I mean, Janet, Andrew asked you on Heritage Day, he didn't know. Is it something that we should put out in some way so that everybody in town knows about it?
I
That
don't-
we are waiting
Well,
to
you know, we
hear?
want to keep everybody in town informed and and keep this in their mind.
Yep, I think so too. And if people
So
are
it's
asking,
another, just another chance to do that, to update
Yep.
them,
I think personally, if I were a town resident and not involved, I would like at least some piece of data saying that the library is waiting to hear until the meeting in January whether or not we are going to be able to move forward with an expansion. And I just think I would just get that out there.
yeah.
So
I
best way
will,
to do it. What do you
sorry,
think?
Mary.
No, it's okay.
I just want to say one quick thing, if it's okay. I will say when Heritage Day was happening and we had the library opened up, we did put some of the books in the hallway, and it was so cold outside during Heritage Day. There were like packs of kids who were coming in and sitting on the floor. But then as people had strollers, they were trying to shop. And so I don't know if this is how you guys want to do it, but there were several times where I was just navigating in and out. I would go, wow, we really need a bigger library. And I got some hoots and like yas and everything. So, I mean, I have started the word of mouth campaign.
Right.
So any opportunity I get, I mean, this does come up pretty consistently in the Friends meetings where we try to touch base about this as well. And then I think as we go into budget season, this is also something, it's a chance, that's our big opportunity, Janet, to engage with some of the town officials, like our annual opportunity. So I think kind of using this as a way to kind of interface with people and let them know what's going on might be one avenue.
So what about doing an official, I hate to use that word, announcement, just a heads up, everybody in Southborough, we're all waiting until the meeting in January to find out whether we're going to be able to expand the library, just to let them know.
Kind of an
And-
update on the process. You've
Yes.
always been good
I
at giving
think-
us
So
feedback.
what's the best way to get it out there, do you think?
I think it's a good idea because the people who are interested were expecting October. And so no word has come through and,
Right.
an
It
update.
might mean that they
There's
might think
something
that
to-
means we didn't
something
get
has-
it, or it might mean We
Yeah,
got it.
something has
Right,
changed.
yeah.
The only thing that's changed is we're pushed back to January, so we
Yeah,
won't have
so
anything.
I think it would be good if we just got it out there because it would be one, people will be looking forward to it, yes.
Right.
And it just behooves everybody to know, especially with the Neary School thing coming, that
Right.
so what's the best way to get it out, people? What do you
Is the
think?
town
Come
Why
up
blog
with
a sufficient medium for doing this?
Is what?
Yeah, I mean yeah,
The town blog?
that's
Is that
one
I
area.
would do that and the newsletter, you
Yeah.
know,
Like do the website, like you said.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Could you do a
the
website.
Southborough
building
share and
uh,
care post?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good, Mary. Mary's been waiting a million years to try to say something
okay,
too.
Mary,
But
I'm sorry.
Marguerite, why
Go
don't we
ahead.
do this? Why don't you and I get together and draft something that we can send out? That way
Okay, who's the
I
you?
can
Me?
kind of work on the logistic stuff and you can work on the language.
who are
Short
you
and
talking
sweet.
to? Who's
Yep.
you?
Who's
Who are you
Which
the-
you
talking
are
to?
you? Who's the
Marguerite?
you?
Marguerite,
Okay, all right.
because
Let's
she's
do it.
saying that we need communication to go
I
out.
think it would be,
So
I think it would be nice to get just a little like a press release, only short
Yeah,
term.
it's an
Yeah,
update and it's
just-
information, you know, I bet you all have forgotten about where you've been sitting on the edge of your chairs. Well,
We're
here's where
waiting
we
with
are.
bated breath for Santa or whoever
Right.
to
yeah,
arrive.
can
Also
you and
saying,
I?
yes, but we won't be asking for money this spring regardless, you know, all
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Point, but I
So
think
Marguerite,
people
is
haven't
it okay if
forgotten.
you and I sit down together and draft something? Is
Sure,
that
and
cool?
Jane, what were you gonna say?
Well, I wouldn't assume people have forgotten. They're
Mary.
just the same as we are. We thought we were hearing in October,
Yeah,
so it's still
exactly.
October. We're still hopeful, but
Yep,
that's not what's going to happen. So here's an
right.
update.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that'd be good. So Ryan, if you wanna, I'll draft something, you look at it because my language always needs changing and to make it sound like, and then just one to my Southborough, one for our website, one for Care and Share would be great.
Well, community advocate, they seem to have had a lot of Southborough stuff in there lately.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
they reached out to me, Janet, and they really want to write about it when there's a decision made, but I
Okay.
can try to engage with them and see if they would do an update because of what's been going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Southborough Library is
Well,
still
because
here.
yeah, the MBTA communities thing is a hot topic, so anything that's with that hook
Yeah.
will get attention also.
All right, so good. All right, let's do that. I think that'll be nice. Just in
Mary's
terms
been
of,
so patient. She's been so patient.
No. This is all on the heels of what we've just discussed. And feel free to punt what I'm about to say for a future meeting. But I love all of the transparent communication discussion that's happening here. And now that we're through this most recent town meeting, and the select board has given us those wonderful dates for the spring meetings, and we're going to be looking at Neary. I just kind of wanted to wave a little flag here about, everyone knows this, but Neary is going to be a big ask and a big budget. And with that ask is going to go with, a lot of the pitch with that larger 4-grade school has been the potential that Finn could yield as a school building that goes off the grid then, and the implications that might have for a library space, other community spaces, and the budgets that go with that. And I just want to make sure that in these preliminary discussions about Neary, which inevitably spill over into some of these other buildings and what their potential use is, I want to make sure I, as a trustee member, have a very clear sort of like soundbite for what the library wants or wants to advocate with respect to this grant that we may or may not get. So I realize we'll know more in January, but also how our potential future ask is not really related to the extra money that's not being talked about yet that might go into a future Finn project. Does that make sense? Like, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that the library is its own kind of train. And I know it relates to this other stuff, but I don't want people getting nervous about an expansion of funds that they're being asked for when that makes sense.
Oh, well,
It's a
because, yes,
big ask,
everybody knows
because-
there's more money that's gonna be asked, absolutely.
Exactly.
But there
And I
was-
don't want to get lost in that. I want to be very direct about what the library is advocating for in that.
So I don't remember the time frame for all this. When did the, we had that committee, Ryan, which is, again.
That was
having
last
trouble
year.
on helping
The
me.
Community Center Exploration Committee.
Right, where
that
we
Janet and
weighed
I
all
were.
of those things and what we might want from the library or not. When did we make that presentation? It was at spring, right?
It was in the spring of this year.
Okay.
Yep.
So that kind of touched on all of the needs of the various, senior center, rec commission, all of those things. And had conclusions about that they would like to have Finn be a resource. And then the library part of it was, if we don't get grants, then we might want to have some real use of the building, like a satellite location or something. And if we did get the grant and build an addition, we might still want storage there and things like that. So a lot of that's covered in that report.
Okay.
Well, there's the other option of library operations shutting down during a renovation and going someplace else, and maybe
Right,
they
it needs
fit.
space for that.
So there's a lot. I mean, Ryan and I can say there is a lot still up in the air. So far, if come January, we're looking at options for this, that, and the other thing. But you're right, Mary. There's going to be asking for money from town meeting for
Yeah.
a lot of stuff.
And then I will say, I had a conversation with a resident, I want to say like 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
where they said I made it seem very, I was very like maybe passive about the fact that this is going to cost $12 million of additional funds outside of the grant, right? It's like 12 to $13 million we're going to be asking the town for that isn't part of the state grant money, because the projected amount is about 21 million. And that is subject to change. The amount we ask the town is subject to change. And whenever you say subject to change about these amounts, Janet will tell you that usually means that the price will go up. It's very rarely goes down in cases like that. But we will try to do an independent fundraising campaign. Some people think that might be very successful. Some people are more cautious. We can't depend on that money. So we are going to have to ask the town for funding for this. And so when people ask, is this project going to cost money? I mean, the answer is yes. That is on a baseline, we have to say that. And I think that is a factor. Like, that is how it sort of intersects a little bit with the NERI project, because some people are concerned about the bottom line.
We have to be good citizens in that we let everyone know as soon as we know what's happening in terms of how much money it's going to cost. We can't wait until a month before the town meeting. We have to be saying right now, this is what we want to do. And also, how people feel about the library expansion will impact how they feel about a new NERI school building.
Mhm.
So I
It's
guess my
just
next
gonna-
question is,
Yeah.
and again, might not be knowable now, and that's fine. Do you feel like the town, with all of these variables and all these unknowables, is there also kind of like a list of priorities that says, like, if the NERI building goes forward, that the library then comes next before a community center project?
It may be that people say, yes, we want a library, no, we don't want a school, or we want a school, we can't afford a library. I mean, but that's everyone's decision to make. We
Yeah,
only can say, we would like a library, but it's your money, basically.
yeah.
And if people move to Finn, so this is what you're talking about is is Jason's committee, the overall financial thing.
Mhm.
If we move to Finn, you can do it, there's different levels. And this was in the report in the spring too. You can do just bare minimum, like replace the little kids' toilets with
That's right,
big
yeah.
people's toilets. Or you can do a really beautiful thing, but you can do all of those things in stages as well. So
Yep.
there's a lot of flexibility. with it.
There's a couple blueprints, Mary, that I can send you, and to any trustee who's interested. But one sort of overarching kind of town priority list is in the town's master plan that was completed a couple years ago. That doesn't get into specific buildings as much. The town does have kind of a draft of a capital plan, which goes out many years into the future. And that is more directly kind of managed and maintained by the town's capital improvement and planning committee. So they are kind of the group, the town entity that kind of works on setting these priorities. And we did have a placeholder for $12 million, not even knowing what the projected cost was going to be of how this could be integrated into the town's financial picture so that we could look at the town's bonding rating, our ability to borrow. All of these become factors in kind of a long-term financial projection. So I will say the school, what's going on with the school is kind of a new player. Like we've been kind of in the mix with an intention to do this. To be honest, since I started in my role as director, there were conversations about eventually doing some sort of renovation with the project. And we did it to a lesser extent with the CPA project, but that was a lot more specific, right? That was because we wanted to take care of the building's history before we looked at the building's future. Do you see how I'm already doing these like amazing talking points?
I know, I love it. Listen to that.
Yeah, so there's a couple things to kind of note, I would say, that could be helpful in your conversations, if we could have this aside, if that's okay, which is if we do not receive the grant in January, I want you all to manifest that we are and to engage in the power of positive thinking, right? But if we let's be practical. If we do not receive the grant funds in January, we are not going to move forward in 2026 with a library construction project that doesn't include state grant funds because of the significant amount of money that we would be receiving from the state in order to achieve the project. What our intention would be is to reapply to the program with a revised grant application the following cycle. If we don't get it a second time, that I think we really need to take stock and decide what we want to do long term. So that is kind of where the library is now. I think we should kind of operate, at least this is how I'm doing it mentally right now, is that we should assume we're getting the grant funds in January and start having conversations with residents in respect to that. So the library is in a competitive grant. If we receive funds in January, we will be going to the 2026 town meeting in the spring and asking for support.
Yeah. So the other part of it is just to point out, the master plan is not a bylaw. It is simply a set of suggestions, and 2 or 3 things have come and smacked the master plan a little bit off balance. One is the MBTA community thing. Nowhere is that mentioned in the master plan, right?
Right.
And there are a couple of other, the Neary School, not really. Anyway, so master plan is good, but it is fluid, or fluider than a lot of people think. It's not a bylaw. So I just, I mean, we could probably talk about this for another 4 hours, but I think a good start is list all the questions, and maybe we can use this as another agenda item in our next meeting also, because I think it's important to start telling people right now.
Yeah. It's on the agenda at least through January.
Okay.
And then, to be blunt, I'm again manifesting the power of positive thinking. This is going to be a standing agenda item probably for the foreseeable future. So there'll be me giving an update. I really do like the idea of drafting something that we can send out to people. I think that was a helpful suggestion because, again, we are heralded, right, as a department that's good at communication, but
Yes.
I have been a little behind in trying to update this, but it has been a fluid situation. This Communities Act thing, not only through us, it threw, I think, everybody who was in the grant pipeline, and then it really our state consultants, this made things very complicated for them, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So they've tried to send out information, but they don't want to be inaccurate in their communications. I think we're in a much more level footing now that the special town meeting has happened and that a vote has passed for us proceeding with sending something out. And again, if October was our time frame for the initial decision and it's been pushed back, we do have an obligation, I think, to update everybody on that. So
So
that
in
can,
August, we thought we were going to know by today whether we had the grant or not. So there were a lot of that
In
email.
June, we thought we'd know in August.
Yeah. So
Oh, man.
we're doing well, but I think a very sort of a resident friendly communication will be a really nice thing to get out to everybody at this point, just so they know. Anybody
Yeah.
want to, Mary, other thoughts? Amy, Jane? No? Okay. All right. So how about we look at the payables, volunteer policy. Sorry, we're only up to 5. Yikes. Okay.
oh, so there
Volunteer
was, sorry that there were 2 volunteer policies. The only thing that got updated was the application form
Mhm.
in the revised version. And that was because Mariana there was like a signature form in the adult one, which
Yep.
made no sense.
Yep.
So that was like, it was stuff like that got removed. I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 edits in them, in the application forms themselves. The policy, I think, is the best it's going to be. But if you guys would like a chance to review it, we can always come back next meeting with any edits. To be honest, I know we were doing strategic plan and that was kind of the focus. So I don't know if anybody had any, you can take a few minutes and read through it if you'd like to, but I'm less concerned with the applications in the back. I'm more concerned with the language in the forms. The thing I had to add in between meetings was really the language about the Cory and Sori check having to be completed every 3 years. So that was put in.
And that applies to the gardeners, say, if they're coming and working on the grounds?
It applies to any volunteer that's on library property,
Okay,
including
I don't have a
outside.
problem with that.
So
Anybody want to speak to it?
we will, Jane, I'm probably gonna touch base with you if a policy does pass this meeting or next meeting, and the best method to communicate this to the gardeners.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Do you think there'd be an
But we
issue
can
with
have
the
a-
gardeners or anyone
We can have a
else?
separate offline conversation about that.
All
So,
right.
because it's just
I don't
sending
know if
them,
it's an
sending it.
issue.
Yeah.
Objectively, no, but I was surprised that Diana or Beth Mello thought it would be an issue with the library volunteers or the friends, so I didn't know where that came from, so I would say,
So I think Beth was concerned because the Heritage Day book sale was coming up.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she thought everybody
Time.
had to be Cory checked when it was only a couple weeks away. So the policy was in draft form. I was just making her aware of it. It wasn't something that had to be done in a timely manner right there. I did get a chance to talk to most of our recurring volunteers during the book sale, and many of them volunteer in the schools, and we're not surprised at the fact that we were going to be doing this moving forward. So I haven't gotten, other than Beth's concerns about the timing of it, there hasn't been any other resistance, I can tell you.
That sounds good. I think it's the responsible thing for us to do, frankly.
I think it's something we have to do. Legally, just same as the first issue we talked about, which is children being left alone there. I think it's just a safety measure for the library. I mean, it's the day and age we live in. It's too bad, but I don't know. I can run it past the gardeners, no problem. I don't
Well,
expect.
that would be helpful. Any other groups that
The
are
only
volunteering?
the only
here?
question I know I will get is we don't work with children. We're just there on the property.
Well,
There are children
just so you're aware, Jane, if the trustees pass this policy and it goes into effect, the gardeners are expected to comply. So
Okay.
even if they're not actively working with children, there'll be an adult volunteer on library property and they're supposed to be background checked.
Okay,
So they'll
no,
have
I
to
have no
search.
problem with it. I'm just
Okay.
looking ahead and I'm fine. I will, let me run it by. It'll be, okay.
That
I'm
sounds
up.
good.
Do you want a chance to run the policy draft by them before the board takes a vote?
Well, it's not gonna determine the library's vote. If they don't like it, then it's not the library's problem. It's our problem. Don't do anything extra. I think, what are you gonna run by me? I'm sorry, I'm a little,
Run by.
No,
Well, I
no,
guess
I
the
just want to
issue is,
say,
do we
because
vote on this today?
yes, let's vote on it today.
if
Yes,
Jane is okay with it, then I'm okay with giving you this draft and saying that this could be the final version, if you're all okay with it.
We're
I
not gonna
think it
say
looks great.
draft. If we voted in, it's it, right?
Yep.
If you vote it in, it becomes a policy.
Right.
Okay.
And Jane's ready.
I'm ready.
All right, so do I have a motion to accept the volunteer policy and application dated, no, I can't find it, go ahead. What is the date
Well,
it was created?
the approval date would be today, Marguerite.
All
We
right,
would put
with an
the
approval date
today.
of October 21st, 2024.
I
So
move.
moved.
Okay, so we have Amy, okay, so Amy moved and Janet will second.
Second, I'll second.
Next, Janet will
Okay.
second. All right, so Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Ekberg, aye.
Davis, I.
Tinty eye.
Matey, aye. We should point at each
And the
other.
motion passes. Thank you for all your work on that, Ryan.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
we've been
good
talking
policy.
about it for a long time, right? Yeah, it's good. All right, so we can move on to payables signature authorization form, which is kind of amazing. The last payables signature authorization form was when Richard Wallace was the chair. And I think we need to update our signatures. Ryan, can you explain?
Okay, so this is kind of a piggyback on the payroll thing, because I guess I opened up kind of a can of worms when we were approving Kim. So Kim and I can sign payables, and we have a form that you can now sign in my office inbox to that effect. When the previous form, if you read it, actually also referred to payroll and payables. We, in practice, treat these things differently. I sign payrolls and send them to the townhouse because I report on their hours. But for payables, the bills that go up to the townhouse, we've always had a trustee sign. So what happened was Mary signed the payable form, and our assistant town accountant was like, she's not on the signature authorization form. And I was like, but she's a trustee and trustees can sign payables. And she said, there's no written documentation to that effect. So we have to update payables to say that you guys can sign the payables form. So how I structured the sheet is how we do it in practice now. So even though I'm putting it and Kim is going to sign, and I don't have authority to grant you the ability to sign payables, you guys have the authority to grant yourself to sign it in a vote that you do now. So that's what I would recommend doing if at a future date, because I think we should update these. If you ever want to make it so that I can sign the payables, you have that option, but I didn't want to open up a can of worms right now. I just want to codify what we do now. I think David has been signing payables now for years. He does it more than anyone else, and they've been submitted. So that's what I told the assistant town accountant. Like, we haven't been in compliance with this for a while. So I guess she couldn't, she said she couldn't read that it was David's signature, but David usually writes out his name under his signature. So I don't know. So I would just say, let's vote. Let's have you guys vote, because I'm not voting, you're voting.
And then
I
come
would
in.
have a motion made to approve the library board of trustees members today in being able to sign payables for town payables.
Do you,
Town,
Can I just
you-
jump in?
Okay.
here? Janet, go ahead. And then
I'm gonna say, do you mean today's trustees? Or today you want to authorize library trustees?
I'm gonna let you guys make the motion,
Okay,
because you
so
can tell
here's
I'm sick.
here's what I'm seeing. One thing, that payables list, does the townhouse need a physical copy of everyone's signature to know? I
Yes,
mean, do they need a
Oh, they do.
signature?
Okay.
yes,
Okay, so we cannot simply say townhouse, any currently serving trustee can sign. We need to keep,
No.
say somebody drops off the board and then a new person comes in, then we need to do another signatures page.
yes. So
We don't
when,
need to
like,
do
when
another
Mary
vote,
came
just
on
another
board, we should have updated this form. When
Yep,
David
okay.
became a trustee, we should have
Yep.
updated this form. When Janet she became a trustee, we should have updated the form. And when Amy became a trustee, we should
Or
have
when
updated
people
it.
drop
So
off, yeah.
yeah, so we're behind, but this
Okay.
is good because Mary just signed.
By
So
a
we want to
decade or
codify
more.
her to
Yes,
be
I
able to
know,
sign.
Richard Wallace, what?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but anyway. Okay, so we need to do two things. One, we need
He's
to
still
talk
on
about
there.
having a policy that any currently serving trustee can sign. And two, we need an actual new signature form on that one piece of paper that we'll have to update every time the trustee composition changes. Is that right?
Yeah, did you see how I worded the form? Do you guys have the copy of that?
Yeah. In the olden days, it was only a certain number of, it was like the chair and the vice chair were the only people who were supposed to sign. And then that went
Well,
and it was expanded to all the trustees, where
I'm
it
gonna
is.
give you I'm gonna give you feedback on this. Is that other than the school department, we're the only town department that has not the department head sign off on the billing. But I also think I don't think we should make a change. This was discussed years ago. I think back when we did the 2018 form, and there were strong opinions back then about having the trustee review it. And what I said was, if you come in, I'm going to go through the bill set with you and tell you where the money is going. And as many of you can attest, I think all of you, I do that as a process now, whether you want me to or not.
Yeah.
So I
Just
think as
nod away
long as people
sign.
know what they're signing, I'm okay. It does make it a little bit more complicated to have a trustee come in and sign the bill, but I like seeing you guys. So I think we should maintain this. That's
I
my
think it's a good
opinion.
oversight. I mean,
Yeah.
not that we need it, but I think it's good that that
Makes us feel so important.
I know. All right, so two things. One, we have to update the signature form with all of us on it. And then number
Are you
two,
gonna just leave that on your desk, Brian, so we drop by and you're not there, it'll be.
Yeah, so when you come in, there's an inbox form. There's one now with the payables authorization, and there's one now so what you're voting on now, that's already printed and ready to go. And then there's also the payroll one from the special meeting for authorizing Kim and I to sign payroll.
okay,
So
so
it's
there's
codified that Kim can sign
two
payroll.
separate documents we're voting on.
Yes, but you guys already voted on the payroll one. You just
Right.
have to vote on payables. And what we've done now is with two separate forms, we've separated the issues. Since
Alright.
the signatories are different, there should be different forms.
Yep.
But
I
there's
know this
only
is
one
complicated.
form we need to sign, which is the one recording our signatures.
Yeah, the signature.
So
Payroll things all
so I
set.
have the signs in duplicate because I have a copy for accounting and a copy for us to
Okay.
keep on record in case it
Right.
goes missing. I like to do that when I send stuff to the town. There's a payroll authorization and there's a payables authorization. Payroll is self-explanatory. And it's Kim and I, but
That's
you guys have to sign that form saying it's okay,
Oh,
even though you
okay.
voted.
So just voting
Then
isn't enough. We have to sign a form saying it's okay.
you have to sign, so you have to vote and you have to sign, Janet. This is
Okay.
the fun part. So vote now, and then you can sign the payables authorization form as well,
Gotcha.
which
So there are two-
authorizes you guys to
Yeah.
sign off on bills in
There
the
are two
future.
separate forms, 3 forms in total that we need to sign. Okay.
And today we're
It's
only voting on the payable. There's two forms and
Yeah.
two votes. We're
Two
only voting-
copies of two forms. Sorry.
Both-
So
both
two
have-
payables, two payroll.
4
Yeah,
forms.
4 forms. Sorry.
It's like, okay, and what we're voting on today is simply the payables signature authorization form.
Yeah, maybe we should name the trustees in the motion, Marguerite, since it's so
Alright.
specific.
Okay, can I just sort of say what I think the motion is? Can
Yeah.
I make the motion?
Yeah,
All right, I move that the following trustees, currently serving trustees, Mary Tinty, Janet Maney.
No, but if you name them, then you're gonna have to redo this every time you have a different trustee. And is that gonna
Yeah.
happen? No.
so
Okay, so
Janet,
I move
it's,
that the currently
sorry,
serving
hold on,
trustees.
time out.
Okay,
Janet, yes, that's what we have to do.
Really?
That's, we have to
Okay,
do it every
That's
time there's
fine.
a new trustee.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, all right, I'll see if I can remember what I actually just
10
said.
years from now, they'll be like, oh my God, we've had the same form since
Right.
Mary. Tinty
Who's
was the
Janet
trustee.
Maney? Right, I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so I
Sorry.
move that the payable signature authorization form include the current trustees who are David Eckberg, Amy Yazdani, Jane Davis, Mary Tinty, Janet Maney, and Marguerite Landry.
And what's the motion?
That's it. I move that the current payables signature authorization form include the currently serving
Okay.
trustees.
Second,
Okay.
All right. Landry, aye.
Yeah, yes, Donnie, I.
Ekberg, aye.
Maney, aye.
Tinty, I.
Davis, I.
All right. I
Did you
think
do
that's
that
what we
right,
need to
Ryan?
do. I
I
think that's what
think
we
you
need
have,
to do.
you have to authorize the trustees to sign payables. I don't think that's in the motion, Mark. I
The
don't want to
motion was that
interrupt you,
the
Marguerite.
payable signature authorization form. All
So
right.
it's like,
Okay.
I know, I'm sorry, it's like, you have to make a motion to authorize the current trustees
Mhm.
named
Yeah.
to sign payables.
Okay.
All right. And then the fact that they put their signatures on the form also has to be moved.
You already,
No.
well, you already moved it and voted
No, we
it.
just do
So
it.
let's
All
just
right.
do
So
it as
never mind
two
that.
separate.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'm going to try
it's
this
fine.
again. I move that the currently serving trustees of the Southborough Library be authorized to sign payables, and those trustees are David Eckberg, Amy Yazdani, Jane Davis, Mary Tinty, Janet Maney, and Marguerite Landry. Do
Second,
I have a second? Okay, thank you. This is exhausting. Okay.
This is why we don't, this is why it hasn't been done since 2018.
I know, now
A,
it's
do you
like
remember
boring.
when we used to,
Okay. All right.
Jane and Marguerite, remember when we used to do this and it was like this before? And then I've explained this is an archaic way to do it. So it's not my thing. This is accounting's thing.
It's okay,
So
but
I'm sorry.
charming. Okay, so all those in
Counting
favor?
Nazi.
All those in favor? Landry, aye.
Maney,
Ekberg,
aye.
aye.
Yes,
Tinty,
Donnie, I.
I.
Jane, you're the holdout.
Davis, I.
Okay,
You go
good.
back to alphabetical.
I think I'm gonna have to just call everybody's name. I thought it was gonna be more free form, but I guess not. Okay. All right, thank you, Ryan. That was exhausting.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry it's so
So,
complicated.
we
It's
were
not
the
my thing.
ones
No,
who
it's
wanted to
not, I
do
don't
it.
think it's your fault.
No, we were the ones who wanted, oh, we all want to sign. Anyway, so, okay, so the appointment of library technicians, and those are Kathleen Schoner. Do we have to read the whole thing
No, but we should move them, we should move each one separately
separately?
because
All
that's
right.
how we've done it in the past. So what I would do is, if this is okay, I'm gonna give you like a cliff notes on the motion.
Yeah, yeah,
You should say, I make a motion to accept the library director's recommendation
yeah,
to appoint,
yeah,
name the employee
yeah.
as a employee position
Mhm.
at a pay rate of, and list the pay rate.
Okay, and I didn't print those out. Did anyone print them out that they
That's
can?
okay. If you would like, I'm happy to, I have them up and I can give you, I
don't-
can like
Why don't you
say,
read it? Somebody can say
Okay.
so moved, and then we can vote on each one. 'Cause you did this-
can I
Does the
can do
motion
that.
have
Is
to
that
be made
okay?
by a trustee?
I think
You
so,
will.
yeah.
Somebody
You
will
do
say
so
so
moved, you've
moved.
made it.
Yeah.
Good, okay, all right,
I'll do all the so moved. Who wants to
good,
be
okay.
the
Who wants
second?
to, who wants
Who
to
wants to be the
second?
second?
Eh,
Mary.
Mary will second. Okay, this is good. We'll have
Okay.
a system going.
Okay,
Okay,
so do you want me just to read out the thing? Is that
Each
easier?
one. Yep. Yes.
Okay, so for the minutes, Mariana, put that the trustee who said so moved is the one that made the motion. I'm just giving them the language to say. Okay,
That will be Janet Maney on every one, and Mary Tinty will second.
okay. It's, I make a motion to accept the library director's recommendation to appoint Kathleen Schoner to the position of library technician at a pay rate of $15.38 per hour.
So moved.
Second,
All right, Landry, I, Ekberg,
Ekberg, aye.
Davis,
Yazdani,
Yes, Donnie, I.
Davis,
aye.
Tinty,
Tinty eye.
Maney.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. How about the next one, Ryan?
I'm gonna do my best with
I
the
know,
name.
sorry to land
It's
this
better
on.
you do it than
The rest of us,
well, you would have had to write it all out.
does Anastasia have two I's in the last syllable? Z.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Okay, I make a motion to accept the library director's recommendation to appoint Anastasia
Koleshnikova.
as to the position of library technician at a pay rate of $15.38 per hour.
So moved.
I second.
All right. Landry, I, Mr.
Ekberg,
Ekberg,
aye.
Ms. Yazdani,
Yes, Donnie, I.
Ms. Tinty,
Tinty eye.
Ms. Davis,
Davis, aye.
Ms.
Maney,
Maney.
aye.
Okay. And that, the motion carries. All right, one more for library page.
So Ryan, you can just say library manager recommends. You don't have to
What?
say, I make a motion that. You can just say the library. The library.
I
manager.
move that.
Right.
I'm just gonna do it the same way, if that's okay,
Okay.
because we just have one more to do.
Okay.
Okay. I make a motion to accept the library director's recommendation to appoint Caitlin Palmer to the position of library page at a pay rate of $15.38 per hour.
So moved.
I second.
All right, Landry, I, Mr. Ekberg,
Ekberg, aye.
Ms. Yazdani,
Yes, Donnie, I.
Ms. Tinty,
Tinty eye.
Ms. Davis,
Davis, aye.
Ms. Maney.
Maney, aye.
All right, thank you. All right, so that's good. I know you did a lot of work to get those employees on board.
So, Janet, in the past, we trustees have made motions with language that deviates from the way the town says that appointments need to be done. And then we've had to come back and have you guys meet again to redo the appointments. So this is, I know because we did this last time the same way, that this is easier. Like they don't like it when we combine people. And then for some reason, they like the pay rate in the motion, which is bizarre, but it's just, and then again, probably if we ask Vanessa, she's going to say it's a different way, but this is the way we did it in the past. I just think it's clean to be consistent.
It is. This is the
that's okay.
library, the library board gone rogue again, right? It's like, you can't do a thing with
But
us.
thank you. So that is, we did want to hire at least one technician and one page, just to let you guys know, because that was the intention of the hiring cycle. We did interview a second technician candidate who Kim and I really responded very well to, who was not available during the day, which is when we posted hours. She is available to cover nights if we need it, and she's specifically available on weekends. One of our associate staff currently works every Saturday and would like to switch to an alternating schedule at the beginning of next year. So, which I think is reasonable. I think asking somebody to work every Saturday is a lot, right? So we have hired this new technician with the idea that Kim could work with her and she could eventually take over. So thank you. But that was sort of why we went with 2 technicians. I wanted to kind of explain what the long-term scheduling implication was.
Well, I love that the library has pages and technicians as an ongoing thing. I know it's a little more work to onboard people, but it's really a wonderful interface with the community. And how many people are working at the library that started out as pages somewhere? A lot, right?
I started out as a page in Nashua, and then
There you
Kim
go.
did as well. So, I mean, a lot of us, I think.
I think it's fabulous. Anyway, to move on to the unattended child policy, do we have more that we need to say?
No, I'll probably have a working draft for the next meeting. That's my
Alright.
goal.
All right, and thank you for that. And next
I
part,
will say, if any of you have feedback, because I know there was kind of a lengthy discussion at the beginning, if you want to send just me stuff one-on-one, like thoughts or things you want integrated into the policy, or you
Mhm.
want to sit down, we can do that. So just reach out to me. We just can't do it as a group. But as I'm putting together the initial draft, I'm open to feedback. So just let me know.
good.
And we should look at the Westboro policy because that's the one that you're probably gonna use
Yeah.
as a framework.
That's what we're gonna
Okay.
kind of swap out Westboro with Southboro, and then we're gonna be adapting some of the stuff with things Kim and I would like integrated. So
Our policy book is getting quite thorough, which is
Yeah.
great. Yeah, there was a
Probably
time
always
when
should
it
be.
didn't, as Janet will remember, when there was not a lot of thoroughness happening in the policy book. Anyway, okay, so the library director contract.
that is tabled because I haven't done any work on that. And I promise we'll just keep putting it on the agenda until I have something to bring to you guys or have the next discussion topic. But I'm doing that to kind of put me on notice. But just with all the policies and with the appointments and the interviews and the strategic plan and the MPLCP grant, there just wasn't time to work on any of this. I'm hoping with the winter, when we're all with our hot chocolates inside, I'll be able to kind of review
comes.
some of the stuff I've gotten from people,
Yep.
and then I can start to put something together.
So my question, what percentage of library directors in Massachusetts do you think are working under contract?
I don't know, but a fair amount, I can tell you, because many people responded. Just to give you guys an idea and to set an intention, I really think that because a lot of the information for employees and pay rates reset at the fiscal year mark,
Yep.
and that's typically when I get evaluated. I think that should be our goal, is to try to, because you only have X number of meetings, to be honest, for the rest of this fiscal year. So I think it's going to require discussion and multiple meetings. And if I get you something that you could approve potentially in June or July of next year, that is when we can start going into well, what'll happen too is that this for one of the first time since I've been here, maybe the board will have to go into executive session to negotiate with me on
Oh,
future contract
exciting.
renewals.
Can I give you a piece of feedback
know.
on this, on the contract?
Mhm.
I was talking to someone this morning who's done a lot in town government, and I mentioned that you were, we were talking about contract, and they said to me, it's about time.
I honestly, it's not. I'm kind of doing this just. There are reasons why I'm doing it. There's also reasons why I'm not in a rush. I'll say too, because the other thing is, all of the things this affects, which I noted got noted in the minutes about the SAP.
Bless you.
Bless you, Janet. The SAP insurance advisory committee and the sick bank, I'd like to have that more set up for when I leave so that other people can accept those responsibilities, because I won't be an SAP employee anymore. So those are things I like doing. They connect me to the town right now too. So I just, I think it would be good if we had some transitional time, if that makes sense.
Anyway,
Is your
but I-
contract going to be with the library board of trustees or with the town itself?
No, my contract will be with you. So you'll also have the option to terminate my contract if you want in future sessions, but it'll probably be a 3-year term contract, Marguerite. I think that's generally what they are. And then what most likely we'll do, just to also set an expectation, is set the increase rate to be consistent with whatever the town is doing with all employees. That's typically what Brian Ballantine does. So that's probably how I'll structure my contract. We've talked about doing it in a similar way. So, because I'm not really looking to come to you guys for massive raises, but you guys can discuss that if you want.
You're already making the big bucks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this
exactly.
something
He
that's
doesn't know what
done
to do
every
with his
year
money.
on a rolling 3-year basis, or is it done every 3 years for 3 years?
It'll be done every 3 years, but you guys can still set up an annual evaluation period with me.
Okay.
You'll have more flexibility. So here's this good. We can talk. I know I've kept you for a long time, but let's make it until 1. Keep it an even 2 hours. This makes it a little bit more flexible, David, on how the evaluation can be structured. Right now, my evaluation has to be done in a public meeting where you guys all discuss it in front of members of the public. And at this point, my evaluations are also recorded so that people can watch them now at any time. So that is unique. A lot of the other department heads are not under a public structure for their evaluative process. So I will say, I do think that is a factor sometimes in the evaluation I receive, is that you guys know people are watching, right? So are you being, not that I accept any feedback, and there have been times where the board has given me very constructive feedback on improvement, which is good, but I want you guys to have the flexibility in coming up with an evaluative structure that you can be open and honest, if that makes sense. Not that you can't in a public meeting, but I think that I kind of stated why it's more complicated. It's not how any other department head is getting evaluated in town. I'm unique in that. But I would suggest, I will give you also my feedback, right? Since I'm going to take yours, which is that we should go through some sort of annual evaluative process, because that's what I hold the staff to. And I think I should be, to a large extent, held to that same standard.
So
Well, also, things change. I mean, you
Yeah.
want to hear about that on an ongoing basis. 3
Yeah.
years is way too long.
is way too long. Yeah. So here's my other question, Ryan. I mean, this is a hypothetical. What happens if a director is under contract and the board of trustees is doing it, and suddenly, for some reason, there's a hostile board? I mean, not that it would be the same, but maybe people would get elected who were anti-library or something. How would that
So
affect?
if people, I will say, like, let's say there were anti-library people that got elected to the board in the next election cycle, there would be 2 people. And there's currently 6 trustees, right? So anti-people would be in a minority until the next election cycle. In which case, so it would have to be over multiple election cycles, if that makes sense. And then I would say in 10 years, there's only ever been 1 year where there was a contested race for trustees election. Generally, it's more of an issue to find somebody that wants to run for a library trustee versus having some sort of contentious issue with all of you. This is my observation.
Mhm.
If people wanted to run for the express purpose of I guess, getting rid of the library director, if I can make that assumption, if that's what you're worried about, they would have to get elected, and then they would have to wait for a contract renewal period, and then they would have to have a majority of trustees.
I'm just saying, I mean,
But-
worst case, 5 people on the trustees quit at the same time, and you've got to reappoint. I'm just saying, clearly we work with you, but what if there was a board that didn't work with the director?
Be like, if this meeting goes on much longer.
My feedback would be, please,
All right,
5
we're
of you don't
stopping
leave
now.
at once.
Forget it, right?
Yeah, so I think my initial feedback would be 5 of you, please don't leave at once,
All right.
because that makes it very complicated for a number of different reasons. And also, we just revoted those signature authorization forms.
Janet, you can
We
go. We're
just
just
did.
going to talk for
No,
another
no,
25,
I
30
need to
minutes
go,
here.
not Janet, I
Yeah.
need to go. This is
All right,
where.
No, I
Goodbye,
wasn't,
everyone.
I wasn't
All
trying to
right.
make it longer than half an hour.
Okay, do I
Bye,
have a
Jane.
motion to
Thank you
adjourn?
for being
Should I
here.
lie on the floor
so
and do this?
If you
recuperating.
need
This is
anything, let us
endless.
know.
Can I just leave? That would be okay with
Yes,
me.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone can leave at any
I
point.
think we're ready to roll, aren't we?
Okay.
Well, you gotta adjourn the meeting, but
Yes,
I-
do I have
there
a
will
motion
be,
to
I
adjourn?
think,
I motion.
I think that's part of the
Amy says it.
reason,
Do I have
though.
a second?
Wait, Ryan's saying something.
I would just say part of, you can build in protections into the contract, Marguerite. So we'll look at language like that will address some of your concerns.
All right,
Okay.
that's good. Sorry I asked that question, everyone. My
No,
apologies.
Out
I
of
was curious.
energy, sorry. I'm only
Okay.
on half energy, sorry. It's not even been
No,
a
I
week.
think we're all functioning on 4 of our 6 cylinders at this point. All right, thank you, everyone. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I
I
So
motion.
moved.
Okay,
Sorry, there we go.
Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Maybe I.
Davis, aye.
Hinty, I.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Bye, have a good week.
Oh, Lord, how do I get out?
I'm gonna close it.